Hey there everybody, Joe here. Thanks for watching my video again. This is part 3 of this project. And so here I'm going to show you how I'm painting this big cliff face right here with the dramatic sunlight and the shadow. And so I started using my acrylics and tubes down here. So I'm going to pop the lids off of those so that I can just grab them right from here. So I've got this brown that I'll be dipping into because I don't have a tube of brown, but the other colors I'll use these tubes. And yes, they are intermixable. They all wash with water and can mix together. It's no problem. So the first technique, watch it. I need to mix a shadow color, but I just got to show you this fun trick. I just push on the tube to get the paint out. See how it just bubbles right out of there, and then I just grab it right off the top. I love how I just have this line of colors to be dispensed at the push of a button. Broop. Just grab it and then put it on here to make my shadow color. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the brown. I've just gotten a can. That's not as fun. I have to dip into the can. I'm going to make a brown for the shadow color. So this is the technique I'm using to do the sunlit rock face. And I need to add white to that because this is a distant shadow and I don't want it to be too dark or else it's going to look close like these. I won't have this dramatic depth if I have dark shadows in the background. So there's white, and I'm going to add a little bit more brown so it's not so orange. Okay, so here's brown. Now that's a little bit too much brown, but better too much than too little because we don't mind having paint texture on our painting, but having it dry too fast is annoying. So better too much than too little. Now I'm going to lighten this up until I have a color that I think is a good shadow. Now I want to emphasize that I keep this in as small of an area as possible while I'm mixing my color. I don't have a reason to do this on a palette just to transfer it to my painting. I just mix it right here. Saves me some time so that I have more time to mix before it dries. Now I like that shadow color. So I'm ready to move to my highlight color now. But I just want to emphasize that I kept it in small of a space as I could while I moved it around and got to the shadow color that I like. So orange, brown, and white, and then my highlight color is going to be a different ratio of the same colors. So I'll just put a highlight right there with pure white, and I'm going to add as much color as I want to see. If I don't add color, it might look a little bit more like reflection of the blue sky. Wherever I have colorless shadows or colorless highlights, it's going to look more like reflection from the blue sky because the blue completes the full color spectrum when shining on these brown objects, makes it grayer. There's a difference between this shadow and this shadow. This shadow doesn't have the orange in it for that exact reason. This shadow I imagine facing more toward the blue sky, so I left the orange out of it. The blue comes in and makes it more of a gray violet color. So just trust me, anytime you want a shadow to look like it's facing more toward the sky, like on the face of this, such as a shadow that's where this tree is blocking the sun, but it's still facing up toward the sky. That kind of shadow, I'll leave this grayer color. Sometimes all I need to add is white to get it to be gray enough. Here I'm adding orange so that I can maintain my brown color and make it look like something that's facing away from the sun, but not necessarily toward the sky, just away from the sun. That's why I maintain that brown color. And you can do this, trust me, it works. You fine-tune the colors so that they look like light and shadow all by themselves when you put them on, just because of the color it is, not because you made the exact right shape somewhere. That is the key for building a rock. So here, no sunlight directly striking this, maybe bouncing off other objects. I mean, the sun is where the light is coming from, so theoretically the only light in this picture is the sunlight. Okay, too technical. Direct sunlight is not hitting this, and so all of the highlights I want to look like they are coming from the sky. The sky is the main light source other than the sun. And so if I want light and shadow, I'm going to have a browner shadow because that's facing less toward the sky. But adding white all by itself to brown takes color away. And since in the world of light, not in the world of paint, in the world of light, adding blue to a brown makes it less colorful. then white is all we need when we're simulating that light with paint. So all I have to do is brown and white to get the shadows. Very simple process, so it's going to be easier than up here because I'm down to just 2 colors. Maybe I want to make a crack going right through this, something kind of unexpected, just going right across here, through there. I'm following my 3-dimensional shape that I already have going on here. And the first step is not to be so exact, it's just to put the dark brown where I want there to be a crack in the rock. So it already, just because of the color, like I said, having the right colors for light and shadow is the first step. If your colors don't look somewhat, if they aren't helping you to imagine light and shadow as you initially look at them, then I recommend first adjusting the color so that you're at least getting that effect before you are trying to build something more out of it. The next step is building a gradient out of that. So I'm going to close this orange and white in on that brown. We'll put some shadows, just some long horizontal shapes in here. I just felt like it might look cool to continue that overhang look. Put several of these, maybe some little shapes as well, kind of doing the same thing, just little. And this is right in the foreground, so I can do darker shapes here. Now look here, see this crack right here? I can make this look better because this doesn't have a very good gradient coming out of it. So what I'll do is just redo that one part and just get more brightness coming out of this area, which just means more white and orange. I think that'll be good. My colors look like shadows because of the color, not because of where I put them or what shapes I make. It's because of the color. So here I'll use a darker brown where it's facing more away from the sky, and then if I want to, hey, watch this. Here's reusing that same trick to make the cracks. I'll use black right here in this brown to make a crack that's in a shadow and even darker than the rest. This is a great place to use pure black. It's up close in the picture, and so it can have a very dark shadow, and then it's a shadow that's in a shadow, so all the more reason to make it dark. And you can really enhance a picture with that method. So I'm just putting little bits of black inside of the areas that are already brown. Okay, now on this part, the context of the picture really helps. You know, this isn't that sophisticated of a trick. It's just picking a color to put on the edge of this rock. And I chose orange, which in the context of this picture looks right because there's all of these orange tones in the picture already. So if I just move my gradient to brown, brown was my established shadow color, then after I reach my shadow color, on any object, just like I do with tree trunks, when I come to the edge of it, if I want it to look like there's some color of light hitting it from the other side, then I just put that color on there. And so here, I want it to be an orange light. I just grabbed my orange, I grabbed a little bit of white, and I just added a little instead of a lot so that I have a darker, more colorful edge on here, something that looks like it's getting a lot of colors. You know, the light is hitting something and getting colored and then bouncing back and hitting this. And so I'm just, you know, just really straightforward logic. I'm just putting a more colorful and not as bright light on the edge of this wherever I imagine these edges facing toward the light. So I did 2 lines, and it's just like with the other light and shadow. It looks like light and shadow when I'm putting it on, so now it's going to create the shape. Anywhere I put this edge, that's going to make a shape that's facing that direction now because the context is put in place. So I can put a little orange here. Now I have another edge that's facing that light again, and I can continue this down if I want to, which I don't really, because I don't want to overdo this effect. And then if I want it to be a little bit brighter, which I think will look good. Not real bright, but this is still quite a bit darker than all of these areas up here. So this is a good color for the look of light that's just being bounced off of something over to this. Here I just use black to make that crevice in the rock. I'll do it again just so you can see, using the exact same technique that I used for those cracks in the rock up high. So I'll just make a black line, and then I'm going to take my brown and start grabbing that black from the edges with just the tip of my brush, and that's going to create a gradient outward that causes this rock to look like it has a three-dimensional shape to it. And then the deepest part of this crevice that I'm making is that pure black strip that's left behind in the middle. This is kind of a cool effect here, all these tiny little lines getting closer and closer to that, because it looks a little bit like layers. And this rock turned sideways. That's kind of fun. I just want to do this real quick because I think it'll look good. Just a few more little dots of brown.